Log number 20, week 20, and I am recording this on the 8th of March, which is a Friday, my usual end of the week and work week sort of reflections. This past week has been an emotional one, as some weeks during this sort of stonemason's endeavors. And primarily, it had to do with the story and the actual connotation and the specific war that I am depicting and the impact that it had. And I I was thinking on how much I have developed in terms of skills and interest and layers in storytelling that I'm going to be depicting this very specific theme that has one hand packing history and one hand through imagination and experience and what I'm gathering. And I have been emotionally sort of burdened by this, and it sparked a lot of thoughts and a lot of ideas on what needs to be done ahead, given that I want to do this right. And the first part is for me to read more. And what I mean by that is I want to learn as much as I can about this subject, about this part of our history. And it's crucial for me to do this right, to do this correct. And it's going to need me to actually research a lot. And you might ask, okay, how would this impact what I've been doing right now? So far, it hasn't really impacted in terms of, oh, I have to revisit things and take away things. No, because I was doing is part of the character that I've been building and sort of his life, but sort of the backstory and the whole story part is additional and sort of what I want to research and learn more about and really have my facts right. And at the same time, the overlaps in history and overlaps in years and times and what happened when and all that. Uh, at the same time, there's a specific part of the story, and primarily in the design that I'm creating now, that a lot of this history uh, sort of side of things is referenced heavily, not just by the visuals, but the way that you would interact and you would uncover the story. And specifically, there is a part in the Netherlands that I am reflecting behind this piece in terms of the story, not very much visually. With like, oh, this means, not as that, but it's. I've been thinking about mayhap during the creation of the following designs, I would maybe take another trip before I finish this arc to add more of the realism behind this story that I'm creating, because it was sparked from there, and there's this specific town that I want to go that I haven't been yet. Um, that through me reading up and all that, it's been crucial. And I was thinking that it would be appropriate at some point, when I finish the designs, before or as I'm writing the story, or rewriting parts of it to go back. And in any case, the amount of layers that I want to put in this, which I keep saying weekly now, is unlike I've ever done before. And I will admit that at some points it feels like I'm having too much on my plate, which is obviously self-inflicted. But it makes me sort of focused, and at the same time pursue this with the most clear headed and like this is worth it type of approach, given that I'm completely overhauling things that I was doing before and I am adding on top of them and I'm revamping things. It's been great. But then amongst this sort of progression and time that I'm spending behind this, there is this other thought that is creeping up. This thought of the time that I spend in isolation and occupied with the themes that I create that take away from my social life. And what I mean by that is in the process of me storytelling and in the process of me depicting this sort of very passionate and personalized questions and feelings, I live in my head. I'm I detach myself from the world for periods of time that would span around 3 to 4 years, and then after those years pass, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go back in the world again, and I realize that I miss a lot of things, not in the fear of missing out type of thing, but in that I need a better work and life balance that I've been thinking about and I've been trying to do because besides the stonemason and this will happen, but moving forward, my mind has been thinking I won't be able to do this long because if anything that I endeavor myself in takes chunks of my life in being in isolation and unable to sort of find that fit, then in the long run I won't be able to do this for long because there is so much one can take of this that it doesn't become harmful for them, and at the moment it's necessary. This is my first time that I'm actually doing it in the level and depth that I want, but it just creeps up on me that he needs so much time from me and so much energy and thoughts and focus that it's just painful on my on me experiencing people. And the way that I mean that is that when I'm when I'm working on something and when I'm thinking about it, it sort of lives in my head permanently. And when I talk to others or vice versa, these characters that I'm creating sort of live with me and carry through in any part of my day. And I find it very hard to be connected to people when they are more real, these fictional characters, to the people that I have around me. And it's part of the trade, I am sure. And as sad as it sounds, the more alone and isolated I am, the better work and output I produce. And I've been witnessing this towards the end of my streaming career when I've been sort of deliberately sort of breaking and destroying what I have been building due to a plethora of reasons. And once that sort of pressure and persona that people have been building up for me has been sort of crumbling down, and less people would show up, I would I would feel like I'm having a more personalized and more sort of overall better quality of work because I wasn't distracted. And I don't know, you know, there is always a consequence, and I guess producing for me good amount of work and the quality that I want has the consequence of me being isolated from people. And maybe it's a naive thing to say, maybe it's just a temporary sort of yearly thing that maybe in the future we'll find other ways to mend this. But this seems to be the case. And as much as I love this, as much as I feel this is me, because I am a very introverted person, as you would see and you would read upon. But having to explore that part of me that I haven't done before, I think is a necessary thing to do it as I am still quote unquote young. because every time that I delve myself in with themes, I hold myself for years on years to make this right, which is a dedication and at the same time a lot of learning that I need to do, and most of the learning comes from this particular topic, and anything else that comes in my way, I get influenced by it, and I would include it and whatnot. But it always has a sort of a purpose, and always sort of operating with a purpose behind of, oh, I've experienced A and B. How would this be put in this context that I'm trying to depict now? As like a purpose for me. Like I wake up and I feel like, okay, let's find the next thing that is gonna, like, drag me forward. But when I was traveling in the summer, I realized that when there wasn't any purpose, there was much more enjoyment of the mundane and much more enjoyment in witnessing, because I didn't really have to witness for something. I was just living, and I enjoyed that as much as I'm enjoying this. So there's like this duality that is happening inside me as I'm moving forward in the stonemason, and I'm able to coherently articulate this, which has been fascinating for me because usually I would sort of need to bounce off my ideas with someone, and then this will come up with someone sort of looking at my blind side and say, "Hey, you're doing this," and I don't know if you have noticed this, but and I'm slowly able to do this with each week, sort of like uncovering like this new thing that I have been neglecting this part. But I think for me is the lesson from all this, and which is I'm trying to implement, is having a better work and life balance. And I don't know how much I can do this now, as when I'm focusing on something, I am completely oblivious to anything else, and I'm harnessing this sort of emotions that come out from isolation and putting it back into the work, trying to really feel how this character was feeling, and I get really impacted from it. And it's fascinating because in this part of the story, I thought of this this way that you would interact with it, and through the way there's going to be so many sections of the story given to you, and through it, many parts of the harshness that this character experienced. And I've sort of, as I'm designing and drawing and putting all this on paper, I'm listening to music and things that inspire me, and sort of like I feel that it would be the appropriate sort of tone that this will be presented to you. And I was listening to this specific track without trying to spoil anything, and tears started sort of rolling down my eyes, and I've been feeling as if I was this character, and I wouldn't say it's the first time, but I would say it has been a profound feeling of establishing that I want to do this right. Hence why I started off by saying I want to do my research more. I want to go and travel and see these places that I'm referencing, because I've been roughly around these places, and but I never was witnessing them with the eyes and perspective that I'm having now, which is going to be very important. So I was thinking I probably should schedule that after the designs are done. So when the story part comes and the other layer of the story, which is through the interactables, notes, other sketches, and whatnot, for me to go and do that. So I will have to do that, which means that all these things is going to take a long ass time, which I'm happy about. I'm happy to feel like this is gonna take a good chunk of my life, because it's a service that I'm doing to the theme and the story and the emotions and the people that are affected, were affected, or are going to be affected. That I'm doing this right, and it's very important for me to do this right, much more than I ever have done in my life in all the other parts, because I'm taking a slice of history that I don't want to arrogantly take, and I've been very cautious about this. So yeah, it's been it's been a plethora of thoughts and a plethora of emotions running through my mind. And the more I am diving into this, the more I understand this is the type of artist that I am, and this is who I want to be. The person who asks questions and sees different layers and wants to introduce the layers, even in the expense of having to do it another year or another few months or a few more weeks or anything. Because time for me is irrelevant when the delivery needs to hit the quality and the sensitivity that all of this is being made. Aside the emotional part of the week and all this sort of jumping off from thoughts to thoughts, the design is going pretty well. I have officially done the first section, if you recall, with the composition. That's completely done, and I am currently in 2 and 3 section. They're roughly around 70% done, which is great. I've opted out with having to spend a day in the week to fully do all the measurements and then spending all the other days sort of implementing the measurements into lines and curves and what have you, because it makes me focus a lot better. And at the same time, I have a clear cut sort of what to do this week. And if I reach it, then great. And if I don't, then it means I was sort of adding more things or I think need to reevaluate things. So it's been great. This new method of working from learning from the previous ones is sort of having a better output and better consistency in how I am implementing and living day to day. But it's been the most amazing 20 weeks and the most informative that I have in my life. I would say roughly I think is to do with my experience from my previous theme and moving forward and what I had before and what was my experience before with the social aspect of it, and now that I am deprived of the social aspect and I'm trying to reflect this character and his methods and his feelings and his past and all these thoughts that I've been dabbling about, it sort of it's harnessed quite powerfully, and now I'm happy that I'm having this depth being added weekly and monthly, and it's gonna be great. I wish I could sit down and explain from lines to words to way that it's gonna be completed together. But I feel like the more I keep this to myself and then I show the result, the more powerful it's going to be. And the only thing that I'm able to give is just sort of like the realm of how this is going to be presented and the depth that this is going to have. And I already feel like when this is going to be out, the first arc, I would like to go over it and sort of explain and reference part of these logs, as in like, hey, I was having these thoughts and this corner of the design, or when I was writing this, I think it's gonna be informative for many. Moving forward to what is gonna happen this week, I am going to be finishing numbers 3, 4, and 5, the compositional sort of sequence that I've shared last week, which 3 is the middle towards the foreground, and 4 and 5 are the sides of where the walls and such, which is quite simple, those two. But I have been breaking in a lot of the work in number 3 in this week as well. In sorry, the week that passed. So it should be definitely done by next week, and that would be great. And moving forward, let's see how this week will treat us.